welcome to Should I Stay or Should I Go? What you need to know. Real quick, just a reminder: all attendees are on mute, as you just heard. However, we are more than happy to take questions as we go. So feel free to put any questions in the chat section in the webinar control panel, and we'll certainly try to get to questions as we move along here. So our agenda today is we're going to just discuss a little bit about Boyer and Associates, who we are, what we do, in case some of you aren't familiar with us. And then we're going to compare Dynamics GP to Dynamics 365 Business Central. So really, the main intent of this session is to clear up any kind of misperceptions you may have out there, to give you options as to what do you do, because there are some news points, bullet points out there about the life cycle of Business Central, which is what we're going to get to, or I'm sorry, GP. But really just to drive home the point that Business Central is not Dynamics GP in the cloud. It is a different solution. We'll kind of talk about what those look like, but also what your options are for an organization. So we're not going to tell you it's time to get onto Business Central. That is not our message. And we're not going to say you got to just stay on GP. That's not our message either. It really is up to the organization. We want to help you make that right decision. So that's ultimately what we're trying to accomplish here. So we'll look at the GP roadmap, just some new features that have been added to GP and the life cycle of the product. Then we'll get into Business Central, again, kind of what is it, the benefits of Business Central, and then we're going to end with a brief demonstration of Business Central, just to kind of give you an idea of the look and feel and how you navigate through the product. My name is Eric Vigasa. I am Director of Sales here at Boyer & Associates. I've been with Boyer just over 13 years. My background is actually in Dynamics GP. So back in 1999, I started working support for a company called Great Plains out of Fargo, North Dakota. So I was actually part of Great Plains when Microsoft acquired Great Plains. So my background is in support, implementations, consulting, upgrades. I've done all of that through kind of my career. Over 20 years, I worked with the product. Then the last few years, I actually moved into the Business Central side of things. I started implementing Business Central. I helped move a couple of our GP clients up to Business Central. And then I started doing more technical sales work, and then eventually became a director of sales here. So worn a lot of different hats, but I definitely have a lot of experience working with Dynamics GP. A little bit more about Boyer & Associates. We were founded back in 1994. We've got 420 active clients. We are Microsoft Gold certified, which is the highest certification. And we have been the last few years named top 5% of Microsoft partners taking on-premise clients to the cloud. So this slide again is just showing all the different services we provide, and on the right-hand side are all the different products we support and implement. So we are a Microsoft ERP shop. That's all we focus on. We do focus on the old legacy products of Dynamics NAV, Dynamics GP, and Dynamics SL. Now, of course, we're doing Business Central. We have a Dynamics, what used to be called CRM, but they are now branding it Dynamics Sales, Marketing, Customer Service. That's the ones you see in the middle there. And then we do full Power Platform as well. So that's Power Apps, Power Automate, Power BI. And then one of our focuses as well is Microsoft Cloud for nonprofits. And we have actually been named one of the strategic partners of Microsoft for nonprofit industries. But we certainly focus across multiple industries. We've got consultants with experience in multiple areas of expertise. This is our proven process. So one thing we're going to talk about is your options. So one option you have if you're on an old version of GP is to upgrade. We will actually follow this process through an upgrade where we will go through a diagnose phase. So we'll understand, okay, why are we going to do an upgrade? We'll actually do an analyze. So we'll look at your current environment, understand how many companies do you have? Do you have customizations, modified forms, modified reports, any ISVs or add-ins, third-party products? We'll create a design document showing this is what it's going to take to get you up to the new version of GP. In the build phase, we'll do a test upgrade. Deploy phase, we'll decide we're ready for production upgrade, so we'll actually do the cutover to production. Operate, you're now live on the newer version of GP. If you decide we're actually ready to get into cloud computing and we want to move to Business Central, we're going to do the same things, slightly different. We're going to look at diagnose, okay, what are the key business problems we're trying to solve? We'll go into analyze. That's when our consultants will meet with your subject matter experts and we'll understand, okay, what pains you have in GP that maybe we can fix with Business Central. What do your key processes look like? Do we have any fit gap analysis? Do we have anything we need to solve with an ISV, or maybe we need to do a customization, so forth? Create a design document laying out this is what Business Central is going to look like for your organization. Go into the build phase where we'll do initial data migrations from GP. I'm actually going to show you what that process end result looks like. We'll set up a sandbox environment for you to do all of our user acceptance testing. We'll do a go, no go decision. If we decide we're going forward, then we go to deploy. So we go into our final data migration, cut over the system production, and now you're operating in live on Business Central instead of GP. Comparing the two, so user interface is very different, as you're going to see. We're all familiar with what the GP client interface looks like. Business Central is total cloud-based, so you do use either a web browser or there is a mobile app for it if you wish to connect through a tablet or a phone or something of that nature. Architecture, there are no servers to purchase and there are no client installs. So again, total cloud solution, internet connection, web browser is all you need to access it. Upgrades are pushed out from Microsoft automatically. They usually go out in the spring and the fall. Microsoft will do test upgrades. We do get alerted as your partner if there's any issues with that test upgrade, so we can correct any kind of problems. Typically, the ones we've ran into have been very minor page modifications that we've had to fix. Financial reporting does go away, so a management reporter does not work with Business Central. There is a built-in tool called Account Schedules, which is very similar, and then there are other reporting options as well, like Power BI, for example, is another good reporting option. Both products can be customized. They're just called extensions in Business Central. And then third-party vendors also exist in both products. So if you are familiar with like E1 Solutions for Smart List Designer or McCorma from Micker Check Printing, those types of vendors also exist on the Business Central side. So if there's any kind of additional functionality you need that Business Central doesn't have, we still can put those, what we call ISVs, independent software vendors, applications into the system. All right, so let's talk about your option on if you want to stay on GP. So some primary reasons to say is it is just less disruptive. So it's a solution your users already know. Again, Business Central is a little bit different. It is a different product. Less immediate cost, so you might just need to do an upgrade, for example, but if you are going to Business Central, there will be some implementation costs to get your users trained on a new system. And again, a lot of people take that time to do system improvements or system changes or process changes as they kind of overlook the entire functionality of their ERP system. Stable and trusted, so with GP, it is a very mature, very stable product. Again, we still fully support GP. And continued investment. So this one is important. So Microsoft is committed to improving GP for another 2 years through 2024. Now, when I get to the life cycle, you understand why that date is important for your options you have. So primary reasons to upgrade. Real quick before I go through this, let me just do a poll here. Just curious if what version of GP are you currently on? So if you want to go ahead and just take a minute to answer this poll. All right, great. So it looks like about half of you are already on GP 18 or newer. We've got some on GP 2018 and then a few that aren't sure. So for those of you who are not on the latest version of GP, some reasons to upgrade is primarily you can leverage new platforms. So maybe you want to start using a newer version of SQL. Well, if you're still on, GP 2016, it probably is not going to be supported on a newer version of SQL. Windows, if you want to be on Windows 11, you need to get on a newer version of GP. So those are some reasons to kind of stay current. It does lower costs and there's less disruption. So we have had, a client who was still on version 5.5 of back then called Great Plains, and we had to move them all the way to 2018. Or we had to do multiple upgrades, actually had to have multiple SQL servers in place in order to jump them from system to system. So if you let your version lapse more, it's just going to take you longer and it's going to be more cost to get to that newer version. And then leverage software that's paid for and new functionality. So part of your enhancement with Microsoft, and again, they're committed for 2 more years of improving GP, is you do get registration keys for the newer versions of the software. So you're already paying for that new software. If you don't upgrade, you're just not taking advantage of something you're already paying for. So this is just showing some new functionality in the system. We're actually not going to spend a lot of time going through this. If you're at all interested though, and maybe you've recently done an upgrade and you just want to know what that new functionality is, typically we do train our clients on what that new functionality is just so you're aware of it and decide, what to put into place. But this is again showing that version to version, Microsoft is improving the software. At this point, a lot of them are minor improvements. Two big reasons for that is, again, the software's been around for a while. Back when I started with it on version 4 in 1999, was over 20 years ago. So it's a very mature system. There's only so much you can improve with that mature system. Another big reason, though, is Microsoft is pretty transparent that they're investing a lot more development effort into Business Central. So that's why we're seeing GP wane a little bit here on what's coming out, is Microsoft's just not investing like it used to. So this is the roadmap. If you've looked at roadmap in the past few years, you're going to notice this really isn't changing a lot. This seems to be the holding pattern Microsoft is in a little bit. Again, they are releasing some new functionality. The big thing is they're keeping tax updates out there. So if you're using payroll or doing 1099s or fixed assets, you're getting tax updates. But this is that GP Next environment they're in, where they do release 3 service packs a year with their current lifecycle policy. You need to apply one of those patches each year to stay current. They are cumulative, so if you just want to put on the year-end patch, that's perfectly acceptable. And they are rolling some minor improvements in there. For example, one of them is the ability to actually copy and paste from Excel into the accounts payable window. That came along about the past year or so. So that didn't exist before, and they're rolling some of that functionality in. So this is the important one, the lifecycle policy. So if we look in the middle where it shows GP 2015 here, that was released in February of 2015. If we go to the column to the right, it shows mainstream support ended April 2020. So about 5 years after that initial release, mainstream support ended. What mainstream support means is if you run into any bugs or you need a service pack or a patch or a tax update, that's in mainstream support when any kind of code improvements or code fixes are released. Once you're out of mainstream support, the product is basically code complete at that point. So that moves us to extended support. With 2015, extended report actually goes into April 2025. So what that means, if you are still on 2015 and you run into a support issue and you reach out to us and we decide we need to pull Microsoft in for some assistance, Microsoft will still support the product. However, they will not release any kind of a code fix if they determine it is a bug or it is an issue with the software. They would insist that you'd actually upgrade, because a lot of times they fix that stuff in a newer version already. So that's really the differences. So where that's important is, if you look at Dynamics GP, and they're committed through 2024 new release, what that means is, let's just say August 2024, they release a new version of GP. 5 years, they will do mainstream support, so that puts us into 2029. 10 years outside of that, they will have extended support, so that puts us into 2034. So 2029 is catching up to us fairly quickly, but that again means you do not need to rush to make a decision with GP. If you do like GP and it's functioning well for you and your current hardware systems are fine that you have in place, by all means, GP is a viable option in the near future. However, if you're struggling a little bit keeping those hardware systems in place, or you are looking out and seeing, that date is coming up sooner than later, that's where moving to Business Central might make sense for your organization. Just want to pause there, see if anybody has any questions on the life cycle, but that mainstream support and that extended support, those are the two key dates. So again, once we're past that extended support, so for like 2013, for example, that is going to end in a year here. What that'll mean is if we had to come in with support request to Microsoft, if it's past that April 2023, Microsoft could easily push back and say, nope, we are not going to help you. Boyer will do all we can to help you, but if we run and we need Microsoft, they could push back and say, nope, we will not help you. You have to upgrade if you want to use us for support. All right, so let's talk about should I go? So some primary reasons that people are upgrading or migrating to Business Central is they do want those automatic upgrades. So there is a burden on you with GP where you have to put your system down for a couple of days. You got to do upgrades, do testing on those upgrades, and so on and so forth. And there are costs to do those upgrades. Again, those upgrades are automatic. They're just going to roll in to Business Central, and you're going to be up and running on the newer version. And with upgrades, they have been very seamless for vast majority of our clients. We've had a couple small issues that I've mentioned. We've been able to address those prior to production upgrade, but it has been very seamless so far. Again, no hardware costs. So all of your servers, all of your access are all rolled into that licensing. No annual maintenance. This is true, but we actually do urge you to get on and to pay annually because there is a discount if you do that. But if you choose not to, you actually could pay month over month if you wanted to, and dynamically adjust your licenses if you have any seasonality. So maybe you've got 10 users through the summer. Once winter comes in, you can back that down to 3. You can easily back that down to 3 licenses with no penalty, and then just keep moving with those licenses. The licenses in Business Central are very different from GP. GP is that concurrent user license. Yeah, that means if you've got 10 concurrent licenses, you can have 10 people in the system at once. You could set 50 people up to access it though if you needed to, but only 10 can be in at once. Business Central is a named user license, so if you have 10 licenses, you assign them to 10 users, and those 10 users have access into the system. You can move licenses around if you need to, but it is that named user license. One benefit with that that people have is if you do have multiple companies, and with GP, what some people do is they'll log into both companies simultaneously. Well, you're consuming 2 licenses in that case. With Business Central, if you log into both companies simultaneously, you're just using your one named license. So you could sign in to 10 companies if you want to, and you're just using your one license. And again, another big reason is the Microsoft continuing investment. Microsoft for probably the last 3-4 years has been very open saying Business Central is the ERP system we're committed to. We're moving a lot of development resources into that product, and they are heavily investing in Business Central. This is a quote from the CEO, Satya Nadella. Again, understanding that your data is in the cloud, it is Microsoft's cloud, and Microsoft is very committed to protecting that information. They've got all their encryption protocols in place. All their SOC compliances are listed online if you want to see, what kind of redundancy and encryption and all that they have in place. So Microsoft, again, heavily invested in improving the product and securing the product as well. Couple of things is Microsoft will do all of your disaster recovery for you. So Microsoft is actually doing your backups. They do 15-minute incremental backups and a nightly full backup. You as an admin of your system could restore that backup if you wanted to. So you do have control of your data, but Microsoft's handling all that for you. And then redundancy. They do have 3 data centers in North America. If one data center goes down for some reason, they will roll you over into another data center. So it's a pretty seamless connection where you're back up and running fairly quickly, actually extremely quickly. This again is just kind of driving home all the functionality within Business Central. So that dark blue inner circle, that's all the feature functionality of Business Central. So again, it is a very, very feature-rich product. Full financials, we'll look at some of that today. Strong distribution, very strong manufacturing. I would say the manufacturing is actually a better component than GP. When you go out, those are some bolt-ins you can have. So if you need to do barcoding or mobile warehousing, EDI, e-commerce, any of that thing, there's abilities to expand that functionality out. Then when we get to that white circle, that's where we start getting into some of that Power Platform stuff. So we can do Power BI with analytical reporting. Office 365 will show you some integrations that we have with Office 365 that access anywhere at the very bottom that's upside down on the screen. Again, if you have a mobile app and you have approvals, if you're sitting in an airport with that app, you can pull up on your phone and actually be able to approve any transactions or documents that are in your queue. So you always have access to Business Central. The smaller blue circle up to the left, that's the old CRM component. So again, CRM is made up of multiple areas like sales, customer service, marketing, field service, project operations. That overlays with Business Central. There are some out-of-the-box integrations where we can sync customers. We can have quotes be set up in CRM that are reading products and prices from Business Central. Those quotes can automatically flow into Business Central, or we fulfill the order, invoice the order. That invoice can automatically go into CRM so our sales reps have visibility to it. So that's why those two circles kind of overlap with each other. All right, let's get into a demonstration. So first thing I just want to show you here is I'm actually going to pop into GP. I want to talk a little bit about the data conversion process because again, I mentioned Business Central is different. So this is my sample company. Some of you might be very familiar with the Fabricam Inc. company, but just want to show my chart of accounts here. Clicked on the wrong button there. So here's my chart of accounts. What you see is I've got this 3 segments set up. And so this is going to be one big difference between Business Central. What Business Central is it's actually a dimensional chart of accounts. So Business Central will migrate your chart of accounts over, and then you're going to see these segments are actually going to become dimensions. So I'm going to show you what that looks like here in just a second. Another thing I just want to show you are like my vendors, for example. Business Central is actually going to migrate vendors over. So if I just pull up my vendor list, you'll see a travel company I'm going to highlight in Business Central, Advanced Office, and so on and so forth. So what the data migration process is going to look like, I'm actually going to just hop into Opera here. So again, Business Central is browser agnostic, but now this is connecting into Business Central. So I can run in Opera, Chrome, Edge. I'll actually show you Edge in a second here as well. But now I'm in this Fabricam Inc. company. So with my data conversion, what the system is actually doing is it's automatically migrating my chart of accounts over. So this is what my chart of accounts looks like in Business Central. It's brought over this balance. So if I actually click on this balance, you're going to see that every single period in GP was migrated over as a net change transaction in the system. Actually, looks like I'm getting some detail transactions in here as well. Might be bringing detail over. And now here's where you can actually start seeing those dimensions. So my department and my division code have come across. So this is essentially my full account string here, but it is separated into these separate elements. So the key thing that means is if I need to set up a new department, and I'll show you exactly where I go do this in a second, I just need to set up that departmental value, and it can now be used with my chart of accounts back here. So no longer do I need to go and define every single possible valid combination of accounts. So we see people's chart of accounts go from literally 10,000 account strings down to like 200 because of these dimensions. So let me go look at those dimensions. So one thing I can do in here, as you notice, I've got this drop down list here. So based on the role I'm assigned to is where I'm seeing all these different kind of functional areas of the system to navigate to. Well, dimensions might be one of those things that I don't really commonly go to. So what I can actually do in Business Central is up here in the upper right-hand corner, I'm going to click this looking glass. I'm just going to type in dimensions. So you're going to see this full search all throughout Business Central. And what it's now telling me is, okay, on my current page here with the chart of accounts, I've actually got 4 pages related to dimensions. So this is actually where I can set up some rules around it. So maybe I want to do dimension filtering. So if I pick an IT expense account, IT and admin are the only 2 departments that can use it. If I pick a balance sheet account, I always want it to go to corporate, or maybe I always want it to be blank, so I can enforce all these kind of rules here. Here's 8 additional pages related to my dimensions. I'm going to come into the setup page here in a second. I've got 8 reports related to dimensions. And then here's where you can see those ISVs. So there's actually 30 companies that have improved upon or expanded the functionality of dimensions in some way, shape, or form. If I want to go to Microsoft's App Source, this is just kind of like an app store like on your phone. So these are approved products that are able to publish up to the App Source. I can look at those products. I could download them into a sandbox environment, try them out, and decide if we want to roll out in production or not. I'm just going to go ahead and click on dimensions here. So here's my 2 segments now. So if I look at this department segment, go into my dimension values, there's where you can see that first segment that I've got set up in GP. And again, with the segment description master table, I can name those segments, and these names would then come over as part of that data migration as well. These are alphanumeric though, so if I actually wanted to, rebrand this 600 to actually say, this is purchasing, I can actually do that. So Business Central does give you a lot more kind of after the fact editing of master records than what GP gives you. So there, I just renamed that segment. It's going to go through and rename it on all of my data, and now everything's actually going to be branded Perch. If I look at division, if you remember, I had that third segment that just had the 000 in there. There's that third segment now that's come over from GP. So we do have the ability to make changes though to the chart of accounts. And again, we can decide at what point do we want to do that. So I could change the chart here if we wanted to add a character maybe, or we want to rebrand or roll some of these cash accounts together. I could do that. Or we decide, do we want to do that in GP first as well? So some of our clients have decided, you know, we've been on the same chart for 20 years. It's been okay, but we really got to make changes. We can actually make those changes with some of the tools in GP first, and then they just pour it over and roll over across the Business Central. One big pro doing it in GP first is it does make data tie out a lot easier because we're comparing apples to apples, but we certainly have, you know, the resources to be able to help that if you do it after the fact. So some other things then that convert over, I'm just gonna go ahead and click on my company name here to get back into my homepage, and I'll talk about this homepage a little bit more here in a second. But here I've got some pages bookmarked as well. So not only do I have the drop downs here and the search, but I can bookmark any page in the system that I commonly go to. So in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and click my vendors. This is what my vendor page looks like then in Business Central. I'm just going to go ahead and hide this back box. Talk about that in a little bit more, but there's that bookmark icon. So here again, you see a travel company, advanced office, Allison Properties. So all my vendors came over, including an open balance. So the system is going to migrate any open AP, open AR transactions as well. So these were all open transactions that were in GP that have now migrated over to Business Central. Let's go back here. I've also got these drop-down lists here showing me historical transactions. So if I go into this payables transaction view, this is actually showing me now all the detailed historical transactions in from GP. So we do maintain some of that history. One downside we have with this history here is this is great, but one thing that's missing from Microsoft is, for example, I can see all of my payments, I can see all my invoices for a vendor, but I can't see that apply record. So I don't know what invoices were paid by which check numbers, for example. So that is one thing we've talked with Microsoft about to try to improve that. They have actually already expanded upon this. So again, this migration tool is going through a lot of improvements as well through the life cycle. And one thing you're going to see in these pages, we call these list views, is I've got multiple things I can do in here. So this is basically acting like a smart list now in this case. So if I want to focus just on a travel company, I do have the ability to filter. So I'm going to go ahead and filter that value. And so now I can see all of that vendor's transactions. So if I expand my filter out here, I've got multiple options. Basically every field on here, I've got the option to filter to that value. And you're also going to see this icon as well, where I'm able to export this data out to Excel. So if I want to dump this out to Excel, I can go ahead and load that in here. If I come back to my vendor page, so this is acting like my vendor maintenance screen in GP. This is also acting like a vendor smart list in GP. So if I do click on an actual vendor, it's going to open up the setup screen. So this is all of my vendor information that came over from GP, including all these statistics in here. But if I go back, I've got the same option. I can do filterings in here. Maybe I want to search for a specific vendor. I'm looking for, I don't know, does Boyer exist in here? Yeah, Boyer and Associates actually came over, so I wanted to find that record in here. You know, maybe I didn't know the vendor number or the vendor name, but I know Tony is our primary contact. I can start typing Tony, and it's doing a full text search across the system here. Then I've also got the ability, same here with this icon up here, so I can dump this data out to Excel. I've also got this edit in Excel option. So what this is actually doing now is it's going to take this page, dump it to Excel, and I can actually use Excel to open up this data and modify this data. Now, one thing with that edit in Excel is I don't have to always initiate it from here. What I can actually do is create my template that's linked to Business Central, and I can just open up that template directly if I want to make any changes. So if I'm looking at this, I'm looking at these phone numbers are really ugly. I want to change some of these. I'm just going to go into Excel, and you can use a desktop version of Excel, absolutely. I'm just going to use my online one here, though, real quick. So I'm going to just sign into Excel. And here I've actually got this vendor card page already, so I've already got it created, so I'm just going to go into that. And now you're going to see it's connected to my vendors in Business Central. So at this point now, what you're seeing on the right-hand side here is it's actually authenticating my user. So I'm signed in as this mod admin user. So that's another big difference is Business Central is going to use your domain account for access. So it's actually going to be single sign-on. So I'm signed in then with this user in Excel. It's connecting to verify, do you have rights to try to do what you're attempting to do here? So it's still going through the Business Central security layer to see, do you have access to modify your vendor records? It does see that I do. So now I can actually come in here and I could apply cell formatting in here and make all these phone numbers line up the way I want, but I'm just going to manually do a couple here. So I'm going to just add in some dashes here and get rid of the extension that converted over. So that's how I want to see my phone number. So I'll just do a couple more here. Get rid of that extension. There we go. So one other thing you're going to just notice here real quick is if I come like into balance, for example, that field does show red. So there are audit sensitive fields you cannot change. But if I wanted to renumber my vendor IDs, I could do that right here in Excel. And again, all posted historical transactions will get updated to reflect that change. So at this point, if I wanted to update any other field, I certainly could. If I had address changes that I needed to do from another Excel file, I could do VLOOKUP, pull those address changes in and publish. So I'm just going to click this publish button down here in the lower right hand corner. It's now going to push those changes in. So again, interacting real time with my data through Excel. Tells me it's successful. So I'm going to go ahead and close Excel. I'm just going to refresh this page real quick and we should see these phone numbers are now going to be formatted correctly. So there's those changes now came through. So again, you're going to see those options to open in Excel, edit in Excel, all throughout the system, whether I'm looking at master records or even transactions. Now, edit in Excel, very limited on posted transactions, but I could mass update transaction description, for example, is about all I can do. But I could use edit in Excel to upload new transactions if I wanted to. And you do have the ability to kind of lay that page out the way you want. All right, so I'm just going to pop over to this other environment real quick. Now I'm actually in Edge. What I want to show you here is, again, kind of that single sign-on concept here. So it's, again, this is my sample domain account, this mod admin account. And what I'm going to do in Edge is I can actually click this waffle icon. So you already saw me kind of do it with Excel. What this is showing me now is my mod admin, all the applications they are licensed through. So the licensing is happening through Azure Active Directory. So it's showing me that I can get into my Excel, I can go into my Outlook, Power BI, Word, and up here at the top is Business Central. So Business Central is actually a component of the Microsoft 365 suite of products. So this is absolutely one way I could launch into it. If I click into it, it's going to now ask me, okay, what environment do you want to go into? So as an admin of your environment, you do have the ability to set up your own sandbox environment. So those are completely separate environments from production. It's no longer just a test company sitting on your production server. So I could control which environment I want to go into. In this case, I'll go ahead and go in production and just say okay. So this is going to be a little bit different chart of accounts I want to show you. Again, give you some kind of ideas of ways you can lay this out. So the chart of accounts also could have some section headers in here and some totals in here. And this is where that account schedules tool comes into play. So here's where I've got all my different account numbers. I can have totals in here. And that gives me then the ability where if I want to just pull in my total liabilities, I could have, basically it's set up as an account in here. Or I see my total equity in here as well. And this is where I want to show you some more dimension options. So Business Central has up to 8 dimensions that you can define. And so these are just some ideas or some options of what you can do. And again, what we've had people do is just convert over their chart as is, and then we add a dimension in after the fact and start coding transactions to that going forward. So one example I just want to show is this region. So one thing the account schedules tool doesn't have is the tree concept in Management Reporter, but I can actually use my dimensions to replicate kind of that tree concept. So I can actually have roll-ups in here. So if I look, I can code to all these individual dimensions here, but I can roll this all up into the United States. If I want to report on dimension 50, I can see everything consolidated, or I can look at each one of these individually. But dimensions don't have to just be for financial reporting. In this case, if I look at this customer group and go into these dimension values, I can actually take transactions as small, medium, or large and have this dimension be a default on that customer record. So when we are doing AR transactions or invoicing transactions, I can start running reports to see, okay, where's our revenue coming from? Are we doing a lot of volume with our small customers and that's making 70% of our revenue? Or do we have 3 invoices a year going to our very large companies and that's making up most of our revenue? But I'm now actually able to look at my data differently, and I don't have to have these be kind of that traditional GL segment, but it's ways for me to analyze and slice my data, because this value will sit at the subledger and this value will sit at the general ledger. So I have multiple reporting options with this data here. All right, so how do we use dimensions? I'm just gonna go into and do a journal entry here real quick. So I'm gonna go into general journals. Kind of same concept here. I can have batches with Business Central. These batches actually don't go away though. So these are permanent batches. You can set them up per user or per type of transaction, what have you. I'm just gonna go ahead and come into this one here. So this is what those transactions can look like. So again, here's my account number. I've got my dimensions here, and then I've got my dollar amounts. And right now, I do have the ability to have this broken out as debit or credit column. I like a single column here just so I can have more fields exposed on my page here for data entry standpoint. But if I want to code in all those regions here, you can see region 50 actually isn't an option. That's really just a reporting unit only, but I could go ahead and code this to Southwest, code this one to Southwest, and so forth. Same with projects. There is a full-blown jobs module in Business Central, but maybe I just need to kind of do some costing analysis. I can go ahead and then code these to projects here as well. So then this transaction would be ready to post. If I came down to another line here, maybe I want to go ahead and add in another GL account. So I'll switch this type to GL account. I don't know what my account number is, but I know I need to book it to consulting expense. I can actually just start typing in consulting and it finds that account number for me. So again, Business Central is doing that full text search to find what I'm looking for. Another option in here is, I'm just gonna go ahead and delete this, is we can actually copy and paste from Excel into these grids as well. So the only key with that copy and paste is I just have to make sure my Excel file lines up with my page that I'm importing into. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pick this template here that I have from Excel. So again, these columns just line up: posting date, document type, document number. May seem like a simple thing, but what Business Central does give you the ability to do is I can personalize this page. So if we let our users have this functionality, I can come up here, go to personalize, and I can actually say, you know, I want this account number to actually look more like what GP was. So I actually want these dimensions all kind of lined up like this. Once I do this, I've now just broken that copy paste from Excel because these columns no longer line up. But I do have the ability to hide columns. You know, if I don't care about this account name, I can actually hide this column if I want to. And I can add fields in here as well. So maybe, you know, we're going to start doing multi-currency. I could bring that field on here. So I do have the ability to lay this page out the way I want to see it. If I just come here to the Excel file, I'm just going to go ahead and copy these values. I'm going to come back into Business Central, paste it in, and there's created my transaction for me. I want the document number to default, so I didn't paste that in. So I'm just going to come up here and renumber this real quick. And now you'll see that journal entry. One thing you're going to notice here down at the bottom is my offset is actually going to my bank account. So Business Central does allow for bi-directional posting. So if I preview this posting, we're going to see 2 types of transactions are going to get created. It's going to create my full balance journal entry, and it's actually going to create a cash withdrawal against my bank account here. So now I am able to reconcile. So this is essentially doing that bank transaction in GP, but I can originate it as a journal entry instead, and it's going to push that transaction up to the subledger. It doesn't all have to waterfall down like GP does. If I look at my GL entry here, so there's my credit to cash then. My cash account, just like in GP, is tied to my bank account. And I did have dimensions here if I wanted to code it out farther. So this does give you some flexibility as well. So if I am on the phone talking to Boyer, I'm talking to Carol, and Carol says, you know, we overcharged you $100, we're going to give you a credit memo. I could actually write in the screen, say, great, give me that document number. I'm going to go ahead and record this against my vendor. And now when I look at this list, it's actually looking at my vendors. So based on that account type, it's now switching what I'm looking at. I want to go ahead and find Boyer, found that record. You can see that dimension defaulted in off of the Boyer record, so we got a $200 credit. And I want to offset this to my consulting services account. So I could definitely go down a line and do an offset there, but I'm just going to do this one line entry here, finds consulting services. So now what this is telling me is I'm going to do a $200 debit to my AP account, $200 credit to my consulting expense account, and it's going to create a credit memo up on my vendor ledger. So now if I preview this posting, I'm going to have 3 types of documents that are going to get created. So there's my vendor transaction. There's that credit memo. So I'll be able to apply that once we get a new invoice come through. There's that bank entry for that $20,000 deposit. And here's that full balance journal entry. And again, I'm in one of these pages here. So if I want to drop this out to Excel, I certainly can. And I can share to teams as well. So if I wanted to share this entry and say, send it over to somebody, my accounting manager said, hey, does this entry look right? I could actually share this through Teams. So then my manager gets redirected into this page. I can actually show you an example of that on the vendor side. So this is actually what that vendor card looks like. So if I'm on the vendor card and I see, boy, Wide World Importers, we actually owe them $480,000. That's really high. I could share this out to Megan and say, hey, Megan, can you look into this? Megan gets this link and actually click on details. It's going to do the same thing that we saw with the edit Excel. It's actually right there authenticating permission. So it's saying, Megan, do you have rights to get into this vendor page? Once that's authenticated, it's going to bring me in, and I'm going to now look at this Business Central page through Teams. So now I can click on this balance here and actually see all the transactions for this vendor record. The red is an indicator that they are past due, so we have a lot of past due documents in here, but now I could filter, I can sort, I could do a search on here if I wanted to, but I'm going to go ahead and look at my old invoices. We got to get some of these paid, so right from here, I'm going to go ahead and select these March ones. And then again, right in Teams, I can initiate payment, same payment types that we have in GP. I can do a paper check, manual payment, or an ACH. Now this won't actually process anything. This is just going to create the transaction. So the next time we do our AP run, it'll already be in there, and then it's just going to be part of that next pay run. So again, virtually any page in the system, I can share that through Teams to make sure we're having dialogue back and forth. One other thing I want to show you that Office 365 is the Outlook integration as well. Again, this all works on the desktop version of Outlook if you want, but here's a case where Eric Vigasa is actually sending a request for information on a sales order. You can see this order number's got a line on this. This is one of the add-ins Business Central has where Outlook is able to detect that document numbers exist in Business Central. So this was not a pre-embedded hyperlink. This is the add-in that's saying, this looks like a transaction in Business Central. I can click on that order number, and it's actually going to take me into that document in Business Central. Now the key is, does your customer or vendor get that document number right? But if they do, now I can see that transaction. So this is basically what that order entry screen looks like in Business Central, where I can see all the different lines. Same thing on that journal level that we looked at. I can have multiple types of accounts or transactions on a sales order, purchase order. So I can definitely book the items if I want to. But maybe we're a service-based organization. I just want to record the GL accounts. We certainly can do that as well. I've also got this icon here, this contact insight. So this is actually going to redirect me to that master record in Business Central. So in this case, Eric is actually set up as both a customer and a vendor. So maybe I want to look at the vendor information for Boyer & Associates. So I can actually click on this. It's taking me back into that vendor page, and now I can see all the information related to Boyer. So I can open up their MSA that we've got shared up on SharePoint. I can look at their balances. So we owe them $20,000. I can click on that. I can see every single transaction, again, indicator that's past due. I can click on a specific invoice and see that detail invoice. If I wanted to pop it out, I could, just to make it bigger. But I've got all historical information in here as well, so I can look at every single posted invoice that we've ran through the system. I could look at every single payment that we've made on this vendor record, all this information right here in Outlook. All right, let's look at a couple other transaction screens in the system. So let me just go to the sales side. So we've talked about the vendors a little bit here, but here's my customer page. Here's if I go to the details. So here's that same information that you could see in Outlook. Again, I've got my fact boxes here, my statistics. I can drill down on any of this information that I want. If I move from customer to customer, these numbers all change as well. If I want to hide that, I certainly can. And again, I've got these same options here. If I want to drill down on this balance past due for School of Fine Art, I can do that. See the detail invoices. Every single transaction that I get to in the system, if I want to see, every single posting impact that had in the system, whether I'm looking at the GL or in this case the subledger. I can come up to this entries, find entries, and this is going to show me everything that this transaction created from an basically an audit trail standpoint. So there I can see the full customer invoice. I could go ahead and open that up. Here's what that original invoice looked like. Again, if I want to share this over to Teams, I certainly can and say, hey, I've got some questions on this document. If I want to see the complete GL impact, I can go into that GL entry. And here's what that journal entry looked like with my cost of goods account. I've got a revenue account, my AR account, and then if I had any dimensions, I'd have that coded here as well. Just go ahead and click on the customer record. This will basically open up like the customer maintenance screen. So here's kind of that general information on the customer. I do have the ability to have credit limits in place, my addresses in here, payment terms, and so forth. If I wanted to mass update payment terms on my customer records, that's where I could use that in Excel to do it, where I could just go ahead and sign everybody to net 30, publish those changes up, and we'd have that. Down here in the lower right-hand corner, you can actually, moved up in the middle here, that's that link with Dynamics 365 CRM, or what's called sales now. So if we were using CRM, I'd actually be able to see any kind of opportunities we had, any quotes in the system. Again, we're going to let CRM be the master of those quotes. So I'd be able to quickly look at that information in CRM if it wasn't yet in Business Central. Just go ahead and look at the sales invoices. So if I come into my invoice screen, we already looked at some sample orders. This is what the invoices can look like in Business Central. Again, another list view here. So if I want to have favorites or search or sort on anything, I can. But here again, I've got some items. Items, just like in GP, can be non-inventory or service-based items. This item is actually a kit. So with Business Central, I can sell kits, but I can actually purchase kits, unlike GP. So if you do have, components that are making up what we call bill of materials in Business Central, I could actually purchase that bill of material. I do have the ability to explode that line out. So maybe I do need to kind of bring in those components, but I want to just get one or two of them. So if I explode this bomb out, it now actually puts those components on here. So I could adjust the quantity at this point. Maybe I need more than 6, I need less than 6. Maybe I don't need a table, I could just outright delete that line. So I'd get some flexibility there. And again, this works on the purchasing side too. But I can have resources, I can have items on here, but again, maybe I just need to book something to a GL account. We don't do products, we don't do resources, but I need to record revenue. So I could go ahead, put a sales account on here. And now we've got $1,000 revenue we're gonna recognize in here. And then I've got my dimensions here as well. You can see a pop-up did happen up here as well. The credit limit's been exceeded, so I do get warnings and alerts within the system if this transaction could potentially cause issues. At this point, I want to go ahead and route it for approval. So there's a bunch of workflows that we can put in the system. Once this gets approved, the approvals actually could post it once it's finally approved, or I'd then be ready to post this transaction and email. Just like in GP, I do have the ability to use Word as my kind of way to modify those email templates or those invoice templates. So I can have multiple templates. I can assign those to specific customers or group of customers. Again, very similar functionality to GP. If we go look at purchasing, I'll go look at a purchase order. The nice thing that purchasing did is it really closely mirrors the sales side of transactions. So if I come into a purchase order, this is what that PO looks like. So again, I've got items on here. I could go to GL accounts. Maybe I need to increase a fixed asset value. We did maintenance or something. I can actually grab a fixed asset. And now my selection list here is showing my assets. Get an error here because this is released. It's telling me, nope, you can't make any changes because this document's been released. I'd have to reopen it, make changes, and then I'd have to route that back through approval. So I'll just go ahead and hit refresh here. It's basically like an edit undo, takes me back to this view here. With posting, just like GP, I can choose, do we want to receive it? And then we will match the invoice later. Have we gotten all of our shipments in and I now want to match the invoice? Or am I just going to do everything in one step? Also with Business Central, I do have the ability to create pick tickets or put away requests. So this gets into that warehousing and where maybe you want to do barcoding and handhelds. I can have separate pick tickets or put aways get created. My warehouse is taking a look at that queue. That's what they're monitoring. As new pick requests come in, they are going to pull that up, fulfill it, post the pick, then that's what's going to update the quantity either received or quantity shipped in this in that case of a pick. So I can let me just show you maybe a quick example of that inventory pick. So again, just quickly searching on it. It's something I don't go to very often because that's not my role. But here I've got all my sales order documents queued up in here. I can open up one of these. This is now what I need to handle. I can have multiple locations, multiple bins, multiple lot numbers or serial numbers, or you can actually track both in Business Central. Once this quantity handled is updated and I post this, that's what's going to update the quantity shipped on the order side. Once that order is fully shipped, I can invoice it, or I can choose to partially invoice as well. Just like GP, I don't have to invoice the entire document. That's an organizational decision you can make. All right, let's peek at items real quick, just to kind of show you what those look like. Oh, actually, I want to take a quick step back. One thing with sales orders that Business Central makes very easy is I can actually see what my on-hand quantities are on an order. So here I've got different items. This is where if I expand this fact box on the system, I can actually see, if I come to an item here, what my availability is. So I've actually got 73 items on hand, but I've only got 69 available because they're being used somewhere. If I move to another item, it actually changes that to show me that I've only got 6. I can actually click on that and see, okay, what transactions are making up these dollar amounts. I've got, looks like 2 orders out here, order 10 and order 3, that's consuming 2 of those inventories. And that's how I'm getting from my on hand of 10 down to my available of 6. So again, all throughout the system, I'm able to kind of see what does our product look like if we are doing things with inventory. If we go look at my items then, as I mentioned, we can have items where we're tracking on-hand quantities in here. I can have my service-based items that I have here, or non-inventory items, so we're not tracking quantities. I can see my assembly bombs here. So here's where I've got that conference room bundle. If I click on that assembly bomb, there it's showing my different components that are making up those amounts. Just click into an item here real quick. I can associate images with it. Again, I can have multiple attachments. All throughout the system, we can attach documents, whether it's transactions or master records. This item category code, this is kind of like the item class in GP, but I can actually have this be more of a hierarchy. So maybe you have classes that need to roll up, and from a reporting standpoint, I want to have all my furniture together because I've got furniture and I've got computer parts and so forth. I'd be able to do that. I can have unique costs and prices. So I could set up unique prices for my different kind of customers on here. And these can be date driven. So if we have any kind of promotional pricing, I'm able to do that. This is a great example again where Edge and Excel would allow me to update my prices, pushing that from Excel into Business Central. Then I've got replenishment and planning in here as well. So do we purchase this, or do we actually build it or assemble it together? And if we do assemblies, do we want to assemble it per specific order, or do we want to assemble to stock? So now that's where I get into my planning. What's my safety stock looks like? I always need to keep 50 items on here, or maybe if an order comes in, I want it to automatically have the system tell me, all right, you got to create this order. So once I get all this set up, then I can actually do some of this forecasting or requisition planning. So if I come into my actions here, my requisition worksheet, this is where I can run this process and have the system tell me, okay, this is what you need to do. So this could be things as far as, you got different kind of purchases you need to make. I've actually got one up here where we actually want to transfer this in. So we create these bird feeders on one location, and then we're going to move it from my main location to the central location. It could also take a look at existing purchase orders and say, okay, you've got a PO out here for 200 quantities. It's going to be way too much. We think you should drop that down to 50. So it's reviewing everything that's on order, both sales and purchasing side. What are those reorder points look like? And it's going to give me this recommendation. And I can even have it to do this calculate plan. I can put forecasts on here as well. So if I want to, say this is what our seasonality typically looks like, I need you to take these potential orders in account. I am able to put a forecast in here, so the system's going to figure those into the calculation. All right, finally, a couple things I want to just point out here. Again, on this page here, I haven't spent a lot of time on this, but this page is dependent on the role you're assigned to, just like GP's homepage, but it's giving me a lot of information. So I am able to kind of see, here's my approval request that I have. I can see my reporting on here, so I can actually drill down on this aging report here and see all the transactions making up that amount for the aging. I can run just outright run an aging report, which I have up here, for example, one of my quick links. All reports in Business Central actually have these options as well, so it's very easy to export reports to Excel, which, as you all know, is a little bit more challenging on the GP side of things. Here's where I've got Power BI linked in as well. These reports actually are interactive too, so I can click and move around on these Power BI reports. I could go pick which report I actually want to display in here. If I want to pop this out and see it a little bit bigger, I have that ability as well to take a look at this report. So again, tight integrations between Power BI and Business Central. I've also got some, because I'm a business manager, I'm a lot more concerned with my GL than say my projects, for example. But these reports here as well, I can drill down, very similar to Manager Reporter, see all the accounts making up my revenue, drill down on a specific account number, see all the detailed transactions, then I can dump that data out to Excel if I wanted to. Finally, just wanted to look at account schedules real quick. So this is that built-in reporting tool, very similar to Management Reporter, where we create a row format, identifying what account numbers we want, create a column layout, identifying what type of data do I want. I can then run that report. I can certainly print this report out if I wanted to, but here it gives me an example of what that report looks like. I do have that drill down capabilities here as well, like we just looked at. One difference here though is if I want to kind of quickly change how I'm looking at this information, I can go from I want to see it by periods to I want to see if I had departments. So I've actually got my departments across. I want to blow this out and look at the full year. I'd be able to expand this out, or maybe I want to go back a year. I can actually have this go back to previous period. So you can actually see my dates now have changed to 2021. Looks like I don't have any historical data in there, for example. But again, this is what I want to see. I can go ahead and then print this. And I've got those same print options as I want to go ahead and dump this out to Excel, or I'm just going to print this off to a PDF or send to my actual printer here. All right, a lot of information. I'll go back to my Cronus USA. So just some upcoming events that's kind of wrap up is we are doing a Business Central coming of age. So this is where we kind of focus on the improvements Business Central has gone through. September 8th, we are doing a Power BI specifically for Dynamics ERP. So again, Power BI is a very powerful reporting tool. We're kind of giving you some exposure on what that can do. Should I say, or should I go for SL? And then end of September, we're doing another coming of age. So that, just wanted to thank you for coming. Again, really what our hope is that you understand you have options with the system. We gave you a very high level demo, but we are more than happy to dive into what are your requirements. You know, maybe you do need to do projects, so we got to take you through that jobs module. You do have strong requirements around sales order processing. We'll definitely walk you through what does that look like in Business Central. So feel free to reach out. We are happy to answer any questions you may have. But again, it's not you need to get to Business Central today. That day is coming. But today you absolutely can stay on GP if you are happy with it. We are firm believers in GP. We are firm believers in Business Central. So if you do want to take advantage of some of that cloud computing and you decide now is the time to make that move, we are more than happy to walk you through what that process is going to look like in order to get you up into the cloud. So thank you again for attending, and hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.